Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Bachelor in Paradise's Hannah Brown on Scene's downfall. The guys love to gossip. The Bachelor in Paradise director of Paradise Relations also reacts to those crappy walkie-talkies in the Treasure Hunks challenge. Each week during Bachelor in Paradise, head of Paradise Relations and former Bachelorette, Hannah Brown will answer a few questions about the cast's journey to find love. Today, Hannah shares her thoughts on the Treasure Hunks challenge, Scene's embarrassing attempts to form an alliance, and more. Hannah Brown, you'd think the show would have enough money to get these folks some better working walkie-talkies. Although it created more challenges, I feel like it ended up testing the relationships even more. A lot of times in relationships, communication isn't as clear as we'd like it to be, but it's about how you work through it. Keith and Kathy have very different philosophies on how to move forward in Paradise. He thinks the strongest couples should make it to the end, and she thinks the best game players should win. Where do you fall in this debate? I think it's both. Hopefully, the stronger the relationship, the better they will be at the challenges. Scene fancies himself a master strategist, but his efforts to form an alliance were not successful. I know it's probably hard to narrow the list down, but what do you think were some of his biggest mistakes? I actually really like Scene, but he did not play this one well. He didn't think through who he was talking to. The guys love to gossip, lol. I honestly wish we would have seen more people get into the gay play of it like Scene, but that wasn't the case, and he wasn't smooth with putting out feelers for his alliance first. That said, Scene was right when he said Jess and Spencer are a very strong couple and therefore a big threat. How worried do you think they should be about becoming a target? I don't think anyone else at the moment is really thinking through what the end of this will look like. I think they just need to keep doing what they are doing, falling in love. When Parissa told you that she'd rather hold hands and walk out with Brian than scheme against her friends to win the money, the look on your face, see below, was priceless. What were you thinking in that moment? In that conversation, it seemed that the money didn't matter at all to Parissa, and actually a lot of the contestants. Obviously, the show is about finding love, and that should be the focus, but it's still $500,000 that could be really helpful in starting a life together. It's not that you have to play the game ruthlessly. You can still keep the main thing. Thank you, Sam M. But to shrug off that life-changing amount of money and the continued experience to grow in relationship in Paradise was crazy to me. If there's one thing Hannah Brown has mastered over the years, it's cutting through the noise and telling it like it is. The Bachelor alum, known for her candid personality and unshakable honesty, recently found herself at the center of the drama in Bachelor in Paradise Season 10. But rather than being the cause of chaos, Hannah has now stepped back to observe the way things unraveled for fellow castmate Scene, whose shocking downfall became one of the most talked about moments of the season. And in true Hannah fashion, she didn't hold back. People think it's just the girls who gossip, Hannah said with a knowing smile during a post-show sit-down. But in Paradise, it's the guys who love to gossip. And Scene, well, he got caught in that storm. The rise and fall of Scene. Scene entered Bachelor in Paradise with all the makings of a golden boy, charming, camera-ready, and armed with confidence that seemed to border on invincibility. Early on, he positioned himself as the smooth talker, cozying up to multiple women and keeping his options wide open. At first, this strategy appeared to be working. Scene was getting roses, building connections, and enjoying plenty of screen time. But Paradise has a way of exposing cracks faster than any other spin-off in Bachelor Nation. What started as a confident play quickly spiraled into overconfidence. The more Scene spread himself thin, the more whispers began to circulate among the cast. You could see the shift, Hannah explained. At first, everyone was laughing at his jokes and cheering him on, but then the energy changed. People started sharing little stories, something he said here, something he promised there, and suddenly it wasn't funny anymore. It was like, wait a minute, who actually trusts this guy? The whisper network grew louder, and before long, Scene was at the center of a full-blown Paradise takedown. Hannah's front row seat. Hannah, who joined Paradise in a cameo role that immediately stirred the beach, admits she had a front row seat to Scene's unraveling. While she wasn't actively pursuing Scene herself, she became a sounding board for others who were wary of his antics. Look, I've been on both sides of it, Hannah confessed. I've been the girl who doesn't know the guy is saying one thing to me and another thing to somebody else. I've also been the person watching it happen. So when people came to me with their concerns about Scene, I just listened. And it wasn't just the women talking, it was the men too. In fact, I think the guys were more fired up than anyone. According to Hannah, the men on the beach, who often bonded over late-night chats and competitive challenges, began comparing notes about Scene. His tendency to embellish, brag, and occasionally talk down others created tension that spilled over into group conversations. It wasn't the women who brought him down, Hannah clarified. It was the men who finally said, "We're done with this." The guys loved to gossip just as much as the girls, and when they put all the pieces together, Scene didn't stand a chance. The gossip game. Bachelor Nation fans are no strangers to the gossip mill that churns endlessly in Paradise. But Hannah's observation about the men being at the center of it this time is particularly telling. There's this stereotype that women are catty, that they're the ones who talk behind each other's backs, she said. But what I saw on that beach was a group of guys who couldn't wait to share what they'd heard, what they'd seen, what Scene had said when the cameras weren't really focused on him. And honestly, it was kind of funny. They were just as invested in the drama as anybody else. Hannah laughed as she recalled one night when a group of men stayed up comparing conversations they'd had with Scene, piecing together a timeline of contradictions. It was like they were building a case in court, she joked, and once they started, there was no stopping them. It was like, objection, here's another lie. I was sitting there like, wow, these guys are detectives. Scene's reaction. For Scene, the downfall was swift and merciless. Once the tide turned, there was little he could do to recover his reputation. The women became cautious, the men distanced themselves, and his once confident swagger quickly turned into defensive explanations. You could tell he wasn't used to being called out, Hannah reflected. Scene's the type of guy who thrives on attention, but when the attention turned negative, he didn't know how to handle it. Instead of owning up to things, he doubled down, which just made it worse. By the time the next rose ceremony rolled around, Scene's fate was sealed. His connections had fizzled, his friendships had soured, and the whispers that began as harmless banter had cemented his reputation as untrustworthy. Hannah's perspective. For Hannah, watching Scene's downfall wasn't about taking sides. It was about observing the dynamics of Paradise in real time. Paradise is a pressure cooker, she said thoughtfully. It brings out the best and worst in people. You can't hide who you are for long, and eventually the truth comes out. With Scene, the truth was that he was trying to play too many games at once, and the beach doesn't forgive that. She added that Scene's exit serves as a reminder that in Bachelor Nation, authenticity matters more than charm. You can be the most charismatic guy in the world, but if people sense you're not genuine, it's over. And the irony is, sometimes it's not the women who call you out, it's the men you thought were your allies. Looking back, now that the season has aired, Hannah admits she has some empathy for Scene, even if his approach rubbed many people the wrong way. I don't think Scene's a bad person, she said. I think he got caught up in the environment. Paradise makes you feel like you need to be everywhere, talking to everyone, making sure you have options. But if you're not careful, it backfires. He learned that the hard way. Still, Hannah can't help but smile at the irony of the situation. The funniest part is that Scene probably thought the women would be the ones to take him down. But in the end, it was the guys and their gossip circle. So yeah, let's not pretend it's just the girls stirring the pot. The men were just as dramatic, maybe even more so. The legacy of Scene's downfall. As Bachelor Nation moves on from yet another season of sun-soaked drama, Scene's downfall remains one of the standout storylines. For Hannah, it's a cautionary tale that reflects the larger truth of paradise. The beach has eyes and ears everywhere. "Nothing stays secret in paradise," she said with a knowing grin. "Not for long. And if you think you can outsmart the gossip mill, think again. The guys will make sure of it." And with that, Hannah Brown once again proved why fans continue to hang on her every word. She sees the reality in reality TV, and she's not afraid to call it exactly as she sees it.